Hi, this is Chelle of Chelle's Creations. Today I'm going to show you how you can use the torn edges with the newsprints or any other paper for that matter. A torn paper edge is fun for scrapping as well as including in your digital designs. I'll be using the CU newsprints. I have two CU torn newsprints, version 1 and version 2, but the best deal is to get them in this ebook, Design Secrets Revealed newsprint, because the ebook includes not only the two sets of newsprints, but also includes ping versions of just the text. I've gone in and extracted all of the background from it and turned all of the text black. It even has some of the vintage aging on it in little grays, but those are available also in ping version in this ebook, and so you have a lot more options that way, as well as the ideas I share in the ebook for fun ways that you can use newsprints in all of your kits. And the CU torn whites. I have open here CU newsprint number 4, but it doesn't really matter which one you pick. You can go ahead and pick the one that you want to use. And I'm going to create a layer from the background on this one so that I can work with this layer. So that we can see what we're doing, I'm going to create a new layer below this layer, holding down my Control or Command key and clicking on the new layer button will make the layer below. And I'm going to fill that layer with a solid color. It really doesn't matter what color it is, I just need to be able to see what's there as we're working. So we'll go ahead and leave that color fill layer in. And then in the torn whites, I have several of them open. I'm going to go ahead and use number 6 first. Okay, these torn whites are slightly longer than 12 inches because that makes things a little bit easier to work with. So let's drag that onto our newsprint. Let's move it above the newsprint so that we can see where it is. Okay, first we'll work on getting the paper torn, and then we'll go ahead and adjust the color on this. Okay, so I want the paper, I want to keep this right side of the paper, and I'm going to tear off the piece that's over here. And so using my magic wand tool, on the tear layer, I'm going to go ahead and select this size. Oh, I need to make sure before I do that I have contiguous checked, otherwise it'll select both sides. Okay, so there we go. Now, if I were to just use this piece, I would have a little tiny white line, a seam in between the paper and the tear. So I'm going to go ahead and modify and expand that to just one more pixel over. 1 pixel over, if you zoom in really close here, 1 pixel over will take it just past the edge, and that's what I'm looking for there. Now there's a number of different ways that you can do this as far as removing what parts you don't want from it. I'm going to do a kind of a destructive way or non-destructive way. I'm just going to do Command or Control J so that I duplicate just that piece. Okay, now I have my tear and I have my newsprint. So the next thing is making the tear the correct color. Let's work on that. There's a couple of different ways. You can lighten your newspaper or you can darken your tear, but let's try darkening the tear. So the first thing that I want to do is get the right color on my tear. These tears are set up to be white, and so I'm going to want just this tan color, and I'm using my eyedropper to choose the tan that's there. And then I'm going to do a new fill layer. In that tan color. And then I'm going to clip that to it. And as you can see, it still looks plenty dark. Let's change this on this to color, the blending mode on that to color. That will help. It'll change the color a little bit more on it. But you can see that that's still substantially lighter than the newspaper, so we need to change it. And so you want to bring up the levels dialog box. That's Command or Control L. And we need this to be darker. So let's try moving the middle. You just need to play with the sliders until you get it to be dark enough that it looks more like torn newsprint. We'll move our black over a little and our middle one over a little. You can also accomplish similar things by moving the white one in the output levels down. And we're just going to play with it until it looks like it could be torn newspaper. Oops, wrong direction. I don't know if I want to move. No. And keep in mind also that the torn part of the newspaper might end up being a little bit lighter than the newspaper around it, but not much. Okay, so play with the levels until you get something that looks right there. And there you go, there's a piece of torn newspaper. Now for your design purposes, you can go ahead, we're going to tear the other side just for fun. So let's bring in another one. This is Torn Whites 9. This time I'm going to put the torn, oh, it came in clipped to it. A Torn Whites 9 right over here. Let's see, that one was about 3.5, so I think I'll put it about right here. This time again, I'm going to choose, I have contiguous checked. This time I'm going to choose the left side of the tear. Select, modify, expand by 1. Okay, and let's go down to this newspaper that's already partially torn and Command or Control J, because now I just want the strip up the middle. Perfect. Now all we need to do is go ahead and change so we have the new color on our new tear, and I'm going to place this while I'm working on it so that I can see both of them. Go back here and do Command or Control L. For those of you who are working in Photoshop, could add a levels adjustment layer. I'm going to do that on this one so that you can see how to do that. It adds a different layer in between that has the same concept. We're going to adjust the levels, but it's got a layer in between. If you were going to do multiple tears, like tearing up little squares, or you want to create something that looks almost like you have Mod Podge different pieces of torn newspaper on there, so you're going to be doing it over and over again, you definitely would want to do it with an adjustment layer, because you could then just duplicate that layer. Let's go ahead and make some of the adjustments that we made here. We brought, wrong direction. We're bringing the gray, the middle gray over, we're bringing the dark just a little bit over, and then that still leaves a lot of intensity to it, and if you adjust this output layers, you'll remove a lot of that intensity from it. Adjusting the output layers will go ahead and just kind of mute the whole thing. Let's move this back just a little bit. It's still showing up as a little more intense than the opposite side. So let's do that more with the adjustment layers right there. Okay, I do want it to be a little bit more light. And okay, there we go, right there. That's the look I'm going for. Okay, so there's on a layout, you could do a strip of torn newspaper down the middle of the layout, but I wanted to mention what it's like if you just want to cut a little piece of it. So let's go ahead and choose. I've done 6, I've done 9, let's go ahead and choose 7. So using our move tool, let's drag 7 onto our newsprint. And this time, instead of tearing straight up or down, we're going to tear kind of crooked across the middle. Your tear has to touch border to border, or when you do the magic wand, you're not going to get the right spaces. And so I'm going to move this one so that it kind of looks a little bit more rounded on that edge. And then the next step is I'm going to crop my whole piece down such that I'm going to crop my whole piece down so that that tear does go edge to edge. Okay, now let's go in with our magic wand tool, and the piece I want to keep is the piece on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. Expand by 1 pixel. And go back down here to my torn piece of newspaper and Command or Control J. And then we're going to, we need to make that tear the right color. Let's go ahead and Alt click and drag, and there's our color fill. And now this is why I would do it with the levels dialog box, especially if you're going to be doing it over and over again. If you're not going to do it over and over again, you might just make a note of what the numbers are that you settled on. But watch this, Alt click and drag, and there's my newsprint to match. Okay, now we're going to run into a problem here with our tears not matching on the corners and needing to delete some later, but I'm going to do that all at once. Let's put in our last tear, and I just happen to pick a straight one. Let's go back over top of the newsprint. What part of this piece looks the most creative and will help us keep it from looking like it's just a square piece? And again, you might want to place all of your tears on to begin with and move them around. I put this one right here so that it kind of had a rounded edge to it right there, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one, trying to match up a little bit more rounded here. Of course, it's giving me some kind of square edges over here, so you can play with the tears and put them where you want as far as that goes. And again, because I moved it over, I've got a problem right here that my magic wand is going to select everything, so I'm going to go ahead and crop it down. Okay, magic wand time. I want what's above the tear, so I'll go ahead and select above. Modify, expand by 1 pixel is enough. We're down here to my newspaper layer, Command or Control J. Let's turn off the layer below. And you actually, on the click and drag, or on you can go ahead and select both of these 2 layers. Hold down your Alt key and click and drag them up into place, and then go ahead and clip them to that last tear. Okay, now we're ready to get rid of the extra parts that we don't need. So I'm going to look at them a little bit closer and make sure that I've got the right things on top that I want on top. Yeah, I don't mind how these are going to blend on top of one another, but I don't like how that one is. That's kind of dark on top of that light right next to it. So I think that one, that's my bottom one, and that's the one I did last. I'm going to go ahead and move that down below and put it on the bottom. Yeah, I think I'm gonna like that better. Again, don't mind how that looks. I think all of those will work. You could play with layering them or picking how you were gonna erase them. Okay, so let's start with erasing the ones that stick out too far on top. So the outline of what I want is this top tear. So let's go to the tear that goes across the top. Holding down Command or Control, click on the layer thumbnail. That will tell me what that's right, the same as that edge. So I'm going to select the inverse of that. Now I have this space up here and this space down here, and I have to be a little bit careful about the space down here. Let's go in. We need an eraser tool, and I want a hard round brush. Either of these up and down, that's the ones we're going to start with. Is this the one on the right? Yes, this is the one on the right. Okay, so that's where we're going to start erasing. It looks like 60 is plenty big enough, so you just go in, and because you've selected the outline of that other layer, it will extract right along the edges of it. Same thing on this size, but we need to choose a different layer. We want another one of the ones that's standing straight up and down, so that's this one. And again, we'll just go in and erase. I'm not erasing the whole thing because there's faster ways to get rid of the rest of it, so I'm just going to go ahead and I need to go far enough to get it out of the way. Let's make sure that this one is a little bit farther to get it out of the way of finishing it up later. Okay, now let's do it on the bottom. So we need to go to our tear that goes across the bottom and select it, and then go to the up and down tears. And now this one we're going to have to be a little bit careful on because that tear is really narrow right there. I need to make sure that with my eraser tool, I have to select the inverse first. Select the inverse. Okay, I need to make sure that with my eraser tool that I don't go past that line there and erase a spot on the other side. So just a little bit carefuler there. A little bit more careful there. Get rid of enough of that one. Let's go back over to this one. Don't have that same problem here, so I can just go in and erase that one. Now you could accomplish this by erasing, or you could accomplish the same thing using a mask if you wanted to do it in a non-destructive method that you could adjust later. Okay, now let's do the opposite direction. This time let's highlight what we have on the right side here, and we're going to erase the lines that go across. So this is the top one, I think. Remember to select the inverse. And now I can erase that part. Erase far enough out here that it's not a problem. And the bottom one. Okay, and now we want to select the other one. That's this layer right here. Command or Control, click on the layer icon. Select, modify it. We want the inverse. And now we want to erase that one as the bottom one. That's the bottom one, and this one is the top one. Okay, I'm going to deselect everything, remove my background, and then I'm going to choose Merge Visible. Merge my visible layers. And then I can go in and just take this piece out of the middle. That'll get rid of everything around it. Okay, there is my piece of newspaper that's torn on all the edges. Those tears are fairly straight. You could tear a piece of newspaper and put it on top of a tag. You could tear a piece of newspaper and add it to a background. You could just tear a piece of paper for interest. Here's another fun technique to add to your repertoire as you are designing and creating layouts. If you have any questions, you can reach me at shells.creations1@gmail.com. We share tips like this each month in our designer club. You can check out the details in the link below or on my website. See you next time.